experiment with all of you. Can you close your eyes? Though I can't really see you, but if you just close your eyes and just think about a comic character or a story character which you read about during your primary school days or before 10th, because all of you are in graduation now. But whatever you read a book about a comic character or you watched a comic character on TV, can you just close the eye and think the best comic character which you have gone through for 30 seconds? Now, I would say open your eyes if you were really closing it, and then think about something interesting which you do in science or which you did in science prior to your 10th grade, or something interesting which you did mathematically good or analytically good. So can you come out the one of the best thing which you did in analytics or mathematics before your 10th grade? And another 30 seconds to think. Yes. So I know the second one will be very, very difficult. Some of you are really pinging on the chat, or you're showing on the chat, Plotly, javascript.com, but these are the recent one. I just want to see that how your retention of information is there post your 10th. And I believe that most of you would have remembered a very good comic character, a very good naughty character on TV in the cartoon or some books or something, but it is probably very hard to remember or recall what you did great in mathematics experiment or analytics experiment or a science experiment prior to your 10th grade. Most of us who are in profession, it becomes more difficult for us to remember or recall those things. But yes, we can still remember our favorite comic characters. So for example, in my time, a magician Mandrake used to be there. A comics used to be there where a character was Phantom, and I was really fancy about Phantom and magician Mandrake. Now, why these things are so hard? Just think about it in a bit of a detail, and we'll probably go a little deeper in next 30-40 minutes that how we can make things very, very easy for you to remember, for your audience to remember. And since this session is more about organization behavior and how do we inculcate our practices through the organization behavior. So all of you are, let's say, computer science graduates. Are you going to communicate effectively through your course, or are you going to effectively communicate or influence people through your programming? The answer is no. It is more about messaging. It's more about experience you bring for your stakeholders, for your users, through which you will be remembered more. No one remembers Facebook, that what is there behind the Facebook, what kind of codes are there, what kind of programs are there. Facebook is remembered or Instagram is remembered because the messaging is good. The kind of experience they bring is that good. That is good. Otherwise, there are so many apps, billions of app on Google Store, billions of app on Apple. Uh, no, I mean, you don't remember all those. You hardly remember 10, 20 best of the apps. Now, just to recap my introduction, so as Parimada nicely introduced me, I'm a bit of a fitness freak, blogger. I do a lot of public speaking as well, and a firm believer in storytelling. I deal with data and analytics in my current role, worked on sales excellence, customer relationship management, lean thinking, and a lot many other stuff. It's been around 25 years of experience in industry across manufacturing, as currently in more of IT and domain consulting. And I'm available on YouTube and LinkedIn as well for any one of you to connect me those public channels. I'm very well available there. Now, coming back to the practice, as I said, we were there in how do we effectively communicate through data, and that becomes very demanding skill in today's business scenario. Now, what is happening that whatever you're doing, so for example, in data science, some of you, messaged me Plotly and all those libraries which Python has. It might be TensorFlow, it might be any other Jupyter or something. Uh, your communication is a very, very demanding skills in a way that how do you take out these outcome and talk to your stakeholders, present it to your stakeholders. And what is happening in last couple of years, uh, more and more things are coming. So more and more data is being generated in the industries, more and more data is being generated in the public spectrum, and that data is available either to you or to the different companies for you to communicate with. So for example, since morning until this time, how many steps did I take? How many did I take? What kind of conversation I had? What did I read on my cell phone? Where did I go in terms of the location? Everything is available in terms of the data. Now, each one of us may not be aware, but some devices, some companies are already aware about it. And how do you really communicate that data back to the concerned person, back to the concerned stakeholder? That is what about all about data messaging, or you can say voice of data. How do I give a voice to the data? Now, what is happening? As I said, if you look at the retention of the information, that how much you are able to retain the information. I read this newspaper on a daily basis, but if you ask me that, Vikas, what did you see on the first page of newspaper day before yesterday, I have to probably give a proper time to recall that information. So that is the growth of information, that is the volume of information which is coming to all of us. So what we see traditionally, that if you are reading something, then retainability as a adult learner, all of you are not much more much more mature. You might be some 20-year old or 21-year, so might be in your 20s or something. But if you ask me as a mature learner, as a mature adult, our retention on written reading is hardly 10%. The spoken is 15%. But when it comes to visual, and when it comes to more of messaging, the the recall is 65%. And I can give you a very good example. When you drive or something, you're able to recall the roads through some billboards, through some visual boards, but you're not able to recall something by some name, that the Katyar mark, or this mark or that mark and all that. But the moment you look at a billboard, then you say, yeah, yeah, I have seen this. I've seen this road earlier as well. I've seen this map earlier as well. Now I'll give you another, representation of the same information. And now it becomes much more appealing. Look at the left side of it, 10, 15, 65. But you look at the right side of it, it becomes much more appealing. Oh God, 65%, such a high proportion. When you compare with 10, 15 in a bar chart, it becomes really, really appealing. And I'm telling you, you mark my words, when someone asks you, maybe after 1 or 2 days or something, you will be able to retain or recall this information much more easily. Now, data itself do not speak. You might have seen this data on my earlier slide, that 10% through written, 15% through spoken, and 65% through pictorial or visual or something. It was itself not speaking till the time you made a chart or you gave it a voice. So what you do, basically giving a voice to the data. You make the data visualize, you understand the data, you engage with the audience, you engage with the stakeholder, you use that engagement for them to take some action. Now, as a practitioner, all of your computer science graduates, and I deal on a day-to-day basis with these graduates in my organization and many outside as well. What we are really good at, that when did I do it, who has done it, what I have done it, where I have done it, or something. So people will come to me with a lot of Python codes or R or some other codes, that what did I do in the code. I wrote this query, I brought in this, I downloaded this library, I took this, I took that, this, that. But you hear out them for 10-15 minutes, you listen to them 10-15 minutes, but something is critically missing. What is critically missing? Why did I do that? Answer is why. Why did I do that? Why did I write a program? Why did I did do a coding? Why did I download a library? Why did I do the whole thing together? What was the need? What is the problem which I was trying to solve? That is completely missing. And mind my words, all of you might be thinking, no, we do that. But as an outsider, as an observer, I deal with this mindset on a day-to-day basis. With their people try to prove their skill through showing the programming, but they're not able to prove that what is the problem they are solving and how programming is solving that problem. Now, before we get started, let's reflect. How do you typically communicate with your presentation and data? So do you bring, you might be doing a lot of presentation to your professors, your maybe sometime to a jury, or maybe sometime to any external examiner. How do you really communicate? Do you just take the data or take the program, just post it on the presentation, or you just open the code and just make them run through, or you do some visualization, some picturization about the data, and then you tell the story, then you give the messaging? How do you do it? I'll just give 30 seconds to a minute for you to reflect upon it. So what is happening that, as I said earlier, everyone is consuming data. You might be thinking that since morning I have not consumed any data or something. And when I'm talking about consuming the data, it's not Geo plan or Airtel plan or a Vodafone Idea plan. It is about data, the numbers. The numbers are consumed by us. So for example, if you go to Facebook, then you will find that 34 people have liked your post. So that's the data. Now that is being shown to you with a thumb. That is being shown to you with some likes or some smileys. That 30 out of 34, 20 people have smiled. 30, some 10 people have, shown some concern or shown some different kind of a emoji on your Facebook post. So that is how the data is being presented to you, and you are consuming the data. But imagine if those emojis are not there, those smileys are not there, those thumbs are not there, you will not be able to remember it so easily. Mere number will not make the sense. So something like this, everyone consumes the data. You go to WhatsApp, then you know that how many unread messages are there. You go to WhatsApp status, then you know that how many people have read your status or something. So the patterns of data consumption or the number consumptions are changing. I read a lot of data in newspaper. You might be reading a lot of data in some different articles, some different Facebook or your university or something. So human brain processes the visual information 60,000 times faster than text. So if you write any text, you make PowerPoint presentation on a PPT, you will find great amount of text, great amount of I have done this, I went there, I did this, in this project, I picked up this, did that, and all that. And no one is able to read. But the moment you make it, visual, then it is processed 60,000 times faster in the human brain. That's how our human brain is wired. And 90% of the information which is transmitted effectively to the brain is visual. And that is the reason we are able to remember more and more Netflix stories, more and more, ZTV or Star TV stories, but less about the newspaper. So if someone asked me the day before yesterday, which movie did you see? What was the first scene? I can probably tell. But if you ask me that what was the first thing on the newspaper page, I will probably not be able to immediately answer that. And that is the visual thing. I mean, movies are all visual, and that is the reason it creates much more impact on the mind. Now look at this pattern. In someone any one of you can, in the chat, you can tell me what is this pattern? What does this picture show? Can you, in the chat box, can you just put this? What is this which I'm showing currently?
Difficult to get.
Sorry?
Zebra.
Zebra. Very good. Yeah, absolutely right. So it is zebra. It's a picture of zebra. And why could we recognize zebra? And why can we easily recognize a cheetah or a tiger and all that? The reason is our pattern recognition. The mind is very sharp in recognizing the pattern. If I do not show these black lines to you and just show the white skin or something, you will not be able to recognize that. So because of the pattern, you could immediately recognize that this is zebra. And similarly, all these all these patterns come in the graphical messaging as well. When you present your data with a lot of visuals, a lot of graphs, that messaging come, and you could see that pattern in my first chart when I showed that how many are retained reading and all that. There was a pattern, rising pattern. Reading is 10%, writing is 15, visual is 65. So there was a pattern, and any one of you could recognize that. So that's in our DNA. Now, what happens that, as I said earlier, that we are generating too much of data in last at least 4 or 5 years. And before we really delve into it, that how much data are we generating, what is the kind of patterns or trends which are emerging, let me do a small exercise. Can any one of you put these 4 words in a sequence, that whether the knowledge comes first or the data comes first, the wisdom comes first or information comes first? So can you put 1 through 1, 2, 3, 4 in the sequence? Knowledge, data, wisdom, information, something like this. Either you can speak about it or you can put in a chat window or something. I'll just give 30 seconds to a minute for this. So has anyone of you done it? What comes first? If you can speak, let's say what comes first and what comes last. Just do these 2 things. Hope all of you are not sleeping.
Students have written on chat box.
So this is how the sequence is, that from data you draw the information, from information you draw the knowledge, and with basis the knowledge you make the wisdom. So from the data, I mean, you look at any child learning pattern. So suppose you start crawling, you start walking, you collect some data that if I go on a road where some pit holes are there, then you gather some information that this road has these many holes or these many pits or something. You create a knowledge that this is a bumpy road, this is not a safe road, and that becomes your wisdom. Then you are able to guide others as well, that don't take that road because it might take you more time, or it might have these many holes, it might puncture your car. So slowly all that thing become wisdom when you start. So from data, information, knowledge, wisdom, and these are very relevant in a day-to-day life, in your corporate life as well. Now the real value of data is not in the data itself. As I said, the data is there, the Excel tables are there, Microsoft Access tables are there, reports are there. So the transition happen that you bring a lot of efficiency through collecting the data, making the report, but information always reside within analysis. That what kind of analysis you bring in, what kind of insights are you bringing from the data, and then that insight and that analysis is able to influence your stakeholder. Imagine you present someone just the data and report. You will not be able to influence, you will not be able to create the impact. So basically, data is moving from comfort zone to value creation. So how do you create value out of the data? Now, as I said that we are receiving 5x as much as information, which we did somewhere in 1986. And what we see that message the kind of message which we give, it will determine the action. And I'll show you, how does it work. The visual information is much more compelling. You are able to read, more quickly as a user. Similarly, the visual scene is it hardly takes less than one of 10 seconds for you to make some inference out of it. The data visualization is very easy, where the patterns can be recognized, and 90% of the data in the world today is generated in last 2 years. So when you get out into the corporate world, then you will realize that how tough your life is going to be there in terms of handling with the data. And within the organization, nowadays, each and everyone handles data. For example, when I started my corporate job somewhere in 1990s, that time HR was not much about data. They were just dealing with, let's say, how much is the salary, what is the package, what is the tax, and all that. But today, even HR is too much into data and analytics, So that is how data has ingrained into each and every part of the organization. And as a computer scientist, as a computer engineer, how can you make your life easy for your stakeholders? I think that is the task you're going to have on your heads. But what is happening that the bad graphs or the bad charts are everywhere. I mean, you come across these kind of chart or graphs on a day-to-day basis. I mean, look at these charts. Are these really appealing? Can you really infer those, very quickly in fraction of time? Look at the first graph. Is a stat graph, US population, our customers, the kind of interested, excited, that kind of a pie chart. Then there is a very cumbersome, very complex line chart, and then there is a 3D chart. I don't know what this 3D chart really depict. And the intensity, please mind my words, is not how much time you how long you continue looking at this graph and then make sense out of it. And probably by this time, some of you might have already made some sense out of this graph. But as I said, that average person or average consumer on any Facebook or any LinkedIn or any Google hardly spend 14 seconds for a particular image or for a particular information before he makes up the mind that I will stop here. Otherwise, he just scrolls either on Google or on Instagram or on Facebook or on LinkedIn, or maybe in your some internal blogs or internal intranets, and or maybe in your email. If the person is not able to make up a decision in initial 14 to 20 seconds, that I would stop and give more time, he will just scroll and move away. Though I have been speaking about this slide for last 1.5 minutes, but think about this, that each one of this graph is hardly going to get an attention of 14 seconds by any user. In those 14 seconds, how can I convey my message, and how can I compel my user to stop and consume more, to stop and look at my messaging more? That is the real crux of the story. Look at the left side of the data. Now someone has presented that in Albania, in Georgia, Greece, Romania, what kind of adolescent fertility rate is there in 2019. Would you be able to remember something out of it quickly? But if you look at the right side of data, it immediately gives you the top two adolescent fertility rate are there in Georgia and Romania. So you are able to grab this message. The top two are which one, or bottommost are which one? So sometimes what happens, I'll give you my clue or something. So for example, all of us are from India, and we keep seeing different index in the newspaper. I mean, something about poverty index, something about corruption index, something about a few days back I was reading about how the child development index is there across the countries. And I just look at that, okay, who's at the top, where is India, and who is at the bottom? Or sometime I will look at the neighboring country, where is Pakistan, where is Sri Lanka, am I doing better than that? So think on the left hand side, would you be able to grab that information quickly from a haphazard representation of your data? The answer is no. But when you look at the right side, then you will be able to grab it. Okay, who are the top two? Who are the bottom two? And where am I as an Indian? These are the three things which I pick up from any data, and then my story is ready whenever I speak to anyone, after reading those news or something. So when using bar or pie chart, you should sort out the data from the largest to the smallest values so they are easier to compare. Now, these things you might be sometimes, people think that, these are very small things, these have been taught. But let me tell you, these are being taught at maybe a sixth grade or a eighth grade or something. But practice, I, I even see when people move to my organization, they continue practice those same mall practices without any desired attention. Now look at these some more graphs. Someone has done a lot of coloring, a lot of bordering here, and similarly some very good coloring here, some tile colors, some tile or some wood colors or something to give the message. But does it really helping? Is it really helping in the messaging? What is 55? What is 77? I have to read that message. So unnecessary border, unnecessary titling, and all those things are not really necessary to convey your message. Similarly, look at this graph. Oh, wow, colorful. Rainbow colors, very, very, fluorescent colors. Oh, I love these colors. You love these colors. But does the audience love this color? The answer is no. It is good. It is catching their eyes that there is a graph, but it is not catching the message which graph is conveying. So unnecessary color are really distracting. Sometimes, user will just scroll through or turn the page or something because it's not grabbing his mind in terms of the messaging. Now look at this graph. We have used hardly 3 colors, but the message which we are trying to pass is that safety stock volume in units in August. So which one is at higher? So I would look at that. Okay, oh God, product C is continuously on a high, on the growing side, 77 to 92 to 100. Similarly, product B is has moved from 55 to 111. Now this is conveying the message. If I am, as I said earlier, that if I wish to look at India or if I wish to look at product B, I will just focus and get my message and move on. Now, sometimes you see this data is being presented something like this, a sales figure. But what do I make out of this, table? Should I really draw a pie chart out of it, or should I make a bar chart out of it, or something? I think we take these kind of calls. So we are showing, this data, this company in terms of the pie chart or representation. This is the pie. Can you tell me that which is the third largest pie or something in this? Can you figure it out easily? You have to probably stare at pie graph to look at what is the largest one, the third largest one. Look at this. We quite often use this. Now again, I give the same question, which is the third largest company in sales, which is the fourth largest company in sales. It will be very, very difficult for you to find it out. Similarly here, we look at this graph earlier, we look at this graph on the left hand side. Now in this slide, either you make a 3D, you make a flat chart of pie, it is not giving the desired answer. But when we look at this, the same data, same information processed in different manner and giving the message, what message we are trying to give, though it lacks flash and dazzle, this simple bar graph tells the story elegantly that which is the company G, what is its sales, where it stands. It is at number 2. The sale is at 30.46%, and this is comes as I said, second largest, and then we can easily compare that fourth largest is company C, the bottom most is 0.60, which is company B. All those things can be easily made out. So pie charts slowly are becoming evil. Let me tell you, whenever you use pie chart, please give a second thought. Nowadays, with the modern data processing or data visualization, the pie charts are not really solving big problem, or the pie charts are not really proven to give you a very nice view. So wherever you can refrain using pie chart, please do so. Please try to use a horizontal bar chart or a vertical bar chart. Please make those choices. So what exactly is there in the bad chart? So as a user, as a computer scientist, as a data analyst, when I'm working on data visualization, after I have done my Python coding, I've done coding in R or something, what should I really focus on? What are the elements which I really work upon? Before we delve into it, let's focus on this. So where are your eyes drawn on these balloons? Where can you focus? On blue, yellow, green, red, or something? Where can you stare for a moment? Where you can just focus. So these balloons are good when you are decorating your home for a birthday, but these balloon colors are not good when you are decorating your slides, when you are decorating your communication, when you are decorating your messaging. These are not good. These are good for birthday parties. These are good for evening parties or anniversary parties. Look at this. Where can you focus? The answer will be red. I can focus on red. And that is how the messaging is. So if you have a lot of amount of data, tons of data, how do I bring focus of the users to my point, which I want to show them? That is the real crux. Now look at this image. Where are your eyes drawn on this image? Any one particular poster, preferential sale, garage sale, or something. But look at this. I started with preferential sale. I did not start with the garage sale. I did not start with sale because that's where the focus is coming. That's where I have used some color to pass on my message to catch the attention. Similarly here, where are your eyes? Stop. And then I move on to cross traffic, then I move on to one way, and then I move on to send Jenkins or something. So the point is that I'm not, aversing all of you to not to use color, but use it wisely. Use it with a lot of wisdom that what is the message I'm trying to convey? Where do I need my audience attention? There's another exercise we will do quickly, and I'll give you 1 minute for this. Can you count how many threes are there in this?
So 6.
Very good. Anyone else?
Sir, 7.
Okay,
7.
very good.
So I think 6.
Can you count easily? So this is the power of, as I said, coloring, arranging, and all that. That how do you pass on your message? So suppose this slide come to you from one of your stakeholder, and then you're trying to convey message that how many trees are there in this slide. You have to present the data in such a fashion that he can quickly count upon it, or he can quickly focus upon it, and he can quickly move away or move forward or something. That is how I use the data. Now, how can you make your chart pop? We are almost 45 minutes into this call. You might be struggling that what is really in a good chart? What make a good chart possible? What make a good chart presentable? So this is a very critical thing. Please, if you guys are willing to take a note or something, Please take a note. Before making a graph, whom are you presenting? What is their goal? What do they want to do with this data? Are you just presenting it for the just for the sake of presenting? Are they technical or business oriented? Are they formal or casual? Or do they prefer big picture or details? So for example, if you are presenting this data to a CEO, you are presenting this data to students, you are presenting this data to some managers, the messaging will differ for each three of these audience. There is no single stick for three different audience. The CEO will have a very, very narrow attention span. So accordingly, he will just look, he would like to see something at a very, very higher level, at a very larger level. So suppose as a programmer, you say, I have developed this code and now things become, I have reduced some time by 1 or 2 minutes. It might not excite a CEO. He says, what happens? 1 or 2 minutes, I can't really save one person. I can't really save one day out of my whole, workforce or something. If you go to a supervisor, if you go to a manager, that I have saved 3-4 minutes from your work, then it makes sense to him, because for him, even a single minute of his workforce matters, and that is how he looks at the productivity. So your messaging need to be there according to the audience, that what is their goal, what are they looking at, what is the big picture, what do we want to them to know. So what they might be struggling to know, what they might be curious to know out of their day-to-day routine, what they might be looking forward that a computer scientist or an engineer come forward to me and show me something different. So I think that is very, very difficult to dwell upon before we do anything on the data. And what action do we want them to take? So I just tell them some story. Sir, I want to do this. I have done this programming, and then say that, okay, Vikas has done his job. He has shown his programming to senior boss. Now his job is done. His appraisal will be done. Oh, you did a good job. No, what action you want them to take? I mean, basis your presentation, you want them to take an action to increase, one engineer in your team, to give you more time for your project, to give you more, training or coding skills, to enroll you for much more programs or something. So what is the action which you want them to take for you? So that is very, very critical when you put up your numbers for messaging. Now we'll look at another, graph or data. Now this is a ticket trend. This kind of a presentation comes to me quite often, and this is a ticket trend. I deal in telecommunications. So telecommunication, whenever some fault comes, people log the ticket, or the customer log the ticket to at the contact center, or maybe at a help desk. And this kind of a trend is there from January to December, that these many tickets are coming on a month-to-month basis. Now these many tickets are received and these many are processed. Now, as a manager, as a senior leader, what do I make out of it? Okay, these many tickets are coming. It's good. Okay, the trend went down. Now it is more tickets coming again. What should I do? Okay, very nice, very good color, very good graph. What do I do? Now, if I represent this data in this fashion, does it make difference? Please say yes, no. Now it shows a very, very clear gap, that received versus processed. The gap is growing. It means earlier we were able to process the same number of tickets which we were getting on a day-to-day basis or on a month-to-month basis, but now there is a lag. There is a pendency in my bucket. There is a pendency in my work, where I'm receiving 177, but I am able to process hardly 140. So there is a dependency of 30 tickets, and which is almost stagnant or widening. This is the message I'm giving. But why did this happen? Why did this happen? So look at the messaging at the top. What we say, approval required for 2 FTs. Why the approval is required? The 2 employees quit in the month of May. After that, our processing speed or the processing capability has gone down. And that is the reason there is a widening gap. Hence, to maintain or to flatten this gap or to meet the demand of received ticket, we have to have 2 more employees. So what is there? There is a call to action. There is a ticket volume over time. There is a message which we have added to this chart, and the whole chart is different. Earlier it was a bar chart. Now it is a line diagram and giving a very, very clear cut message. Now let's recap, what we have learned in last 20, 25, 30 minutes, and then we'll, progress further. What we say that don't use 3D, and all of you will agree with me. The flat charts, the flat curves are good enough to convey the message. Don't ever use 3D. It does not solve any purpose except some jazzy presentation of marketing, where they want to influence the stakeholder by their jazziness. I mean, oh wow, what color? Oh wow, what kind of a graph? Oh wow, what kind of an image? But the real message, okay, with that image, what do you want to pass on? That is not there. Use rainbow colors. Please don't use rainbow colors. It is not really required. Hardly max to max 2-3 colors are good enough for any chart, for any graph, for any PowerPoint presentation. Include lines, labels that draw audience attention on your graph. Don't just paste the graph on the PPT and send it to anyone, or don't just paste the graph on a presentation or on an email or on a Word file or in your project report or something and just send to anyone. Please attach some arrows. Please show some messaging, what this graph or what this data is conveying to the audience or to the readers. Now there are certain do's. Make your chart look like you use something other than MS Excel. Please do so. Don't convey that I have used Excel and here you go, I have pasted it. So look at this graph. When you give the messaging, it does not really give a reflection. You have used Excel. You have used your brain as well. You have used your intelligence as well. But here, when you were here, it was just copy pasted from Excel to your report. That's it. No intelligence, no human being. Even a bot can also copy paste from here to there. You make a bot which is from Automation Anywhere or Blue Prism or something. The bots which are good in crawling or which are good in screen scraping, they can also copy paste from Excel to a report, Excel to a Word, Excel to a PPT. But where does the human intelligence comes in? Here is the intelligence. A robot will not be able to do this intelligence. You can mark my words. Robot will not be able to create a message which you want to convey. Now, how does this messaging really matters? So look at this. Brexit is a very hot topic nowadays as well, because we are mid of a pandemic. We are slowly seeing that okay, we will come out of it. So you can see nowadays once again Boris Johnson, who is the Prime Minister in UK, he once again started raising a voice about Brexit and then getting the jury in place and getting a whole lot of people in place to put the norms about Brexit. But look at this messaging which was going on their buses a few years, 1 or 2 years back. And can you identify the narrative, the story, the data and call to action in this message? What exactly is there? I'll just give you 1 or 2 minutes for this. So no answers, no worry. So there is a story. We need the EU $350 million a week. Let's fund out NHS. NHS is a national health system in UK. Instead, vote leave. So they wanted everyone in UK to vote for leaving, the European Union. So Brexit was there. So there is a story, there is a data. there is an action that what action do we need to take. This is how the messaging goes whenever you represent your numbers to anyone. So messaging or stories are remembered up to 22 times more than facts alone. So the graph which you saw today about number of tickets and everything, I can guarantee you if I come back to you after 4 or 5 days, you will be able to remember the second graph much more easier rather than the first graph. Hope all of you agree with me. So messaging and stories are remembered very for a very longer duration with much more emotional appeal, which much more inspirational appeal, all those things in place. And stories engage the client. When you are presenting it to them, when you are showing it to them, they engage the client. Now, again, I'm coming back that how can we create some impactful messages? Can you see my slide? Creating impactful messages. There is a bit of a lag, I believe. Yeah, this one. So there is an investment by which municipal corporations are doing. So, for example, the smart city project, where municipalities are encouraged to take action, make the cities better and something. So there is a graph on the left hand side that what kind of investments are being done by these municipal corporations to make the cities smarter and all. But does it really give a message? The answer is no. But if you look at the right hand side, what they are trying to convey message that since we begin investing, 4 areas have received more than 6 lakh each, accounting 75% of total grant to these municipal corporation. One for capacity building, second for human services, arts and culture, and community betterment. And that is where 75% investment goes into municipal corporations of these smart cities. Now this 75%, this top 4 blue covering and all that will not come from Excel. Excel will never ever be able to do. Python can probably create this vertical chart or something, but will not build this messaging which we are trying to give here. So whenever you are drawing any slide or any messaging, please keep in mind less is more. Less is more. Content heavy slides are totally distracting. And let me tell you my own experience. Whenever content slides, heavy slides are there, and I'm the audience, I always go on Facebook, LinkedIn, or many other social channels to check what is happening there next, or maybe on WhatsApp. So those are the sweet spot for me to go and look at in my own world rather than focusing on that slide or something, because it's not solving my purpose. There's nothing going to my mind. Don't make your audience work. So better you work, not your audience need to calculate, okay, top 75%, 4 plus 5 or 6 becomes top 27, top 75 or something. Don't make them work. Please give that pre-work to them. Too much content is difficult to understand. As I said, it really at least distract me a lot. I'm not sure about others. So we'll, we are heading towards the end of this session, and now we'll just quickly recap what have we learned today. So if you can just think about it, keep messaging in the chat box or in the Teams chat message. I think that'll be good. We are towards the end of this session, so it is good to recap what have we learned today. And Parimal, over to you as well, if you can sort of recap or wish to express your views.
Thank you so much, because actually it was a learning lesson for me myself as well, because I did not think this topic this way, as we have very nicely described and highlighted. So I believe that for all my students here, they actually take information, and not only information, as we told in the beginning, knowledge and wisdom, how to apply actually knowledge from the session in their practical life. So thank you for giving time and giving your insight and knowledge and wisdom in this field. And really, it was very joyful and interesting and valuable. So we invite you more to share your thoughts with our students, and we'll be happy and thankful. And we actually time is over. So I am making just right now the attendance, and then I will dismiss the class with your permission, of course.
Sure. So we are done with this session. Thank you, Parimalda, for your time as well, and all the students giving us this opportunity to share our learning. And it is always great to go back to the academia, and then whatever we have learned the hard way post our college, seed that knowledge back to the academic institutes. So at least whatever trouble we have faced or whatever challenges we have faced, the students community, they do not really face the same challenge, and take as much time to conclude certain things which we concluded. So better you take this learning from the day one when you enter into the corporate life. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. So I am going to end the session.
Thank you.
Thank you,